My son called me late one winter evening while I was standing alone in my kitchen, staring out the window as snow quietly piled along the edges of my porch. The house was silent in the way it only gets when you've lived alone long enough that the absence of noise feels permanent. The refrigerator hummed softly. The clock ticked on the wall. Outside, the world moved on without me. His voice came through the phone, bright and fast, overflowing with pride. He sounded excited, almost breathless, like he used to when he was a boy bursting through the front door to tell me something big. He didn't ease into it. He launched straight into the story. He and his wife had finally done it. They bought a penthouse apartment in downtown Boston. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, a private elevator, a skyline view that stretched farther than I could imagine from my quiet suburban street. I smiled. I really did. I leaned against the counter, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold hours earlier, and told him how proud I was. I meant it. For a brief moment, I saw him as the child who used to sit cross-legged on this same kitchen floor building towers out of wooden blocks, promising me he'd live in the tallest building in the city someday. Then his tone changed. He laughed softly and said, almost casually, that I would be paying the mortgage, that he and his wife had decided it was my responsibility. I laughed at first because the words didn't register as real. They sounded absurd, like a punchline without a joke. My son had always had an unusual sense of humor, but he didn't laugh back. There was no pause, no explanation, no hint that he was kidding. There was only silence, heavy and expectant, like he was waiting for me to confirm something we had already agreed to. That was the moment something inside me shifted. My name is Daniel. I'm 62 years old, widowed, retired. I spent my entire adult life working as an engineer, living modestly, saving carefully, and structuring every major decision around one goal: giving my son Ethan a better life than the one I had. I paid his college tuition outright because I didn't want him starting adulthood buried in debt. I bought his first car so he could commute without worry. I covered his wedding costs when he told me money was tight and promised he'd pay me back. I co-signed business loans I didn't fully understand because I trusted him when he said they were temporary and everything would work out. Every sacrifice felt justified at the time. I believed I was building something permanent. I believed love meant showing up every time he asked, no matter the cost. I believed that if I gave enough, eventually he'd stand on his own. After that phone call, I couldn't shake the feeling in my chest. The house felt smaller, heavier, like the walls were pressing inward. I tried distracting myself, cleaning the kitchen, straightening things that didn't need to be straightened, but my hands kept trembling. When headlights swept across my snow-covered lawn an hour later, my stomach tightened before I even opened the door. Ethan walked in with his wife Clara like they owned the place, confident, polished, well-dressed. Clara's heels clicked sharply against my hardwood floor as she scanned the room without speaking, taking inventory of everything, the furniture, the walls, the photos. My life felt like it was being silently evaluated and found lacking. She didn't sit down. Instead, she pulled a folder from her purse and placed it neatly on my coffee table, aligning it perfectly with the edge like she was presenting documents at a corporate meeting. She said they needed to talk about the mortgage. Ethan explained that the payments were overwhelming, that the apartment was an investment in their future, that it was the kind of place you raised children in. He reminded me of everything I had ever done for him, not with gratitude, but like a ledger. Like each act of love had created a debt I now owed indefinitely. Clara followed, her voice calm and measured. She said Ethan wouldn't be where he was without my support. That I had always helped before. That helping now was simply continuing the pattern. She said this was my responsibility as a father, as if fatherhood came with a lifetime financial contract. They weren't asking. They were informing me. I told them no, calmly at first. Then, more firmly, I said I had already given enough, that their mortgage was their responsibility, not mine, that I wasn't their financial safety net. Ethan's face hardened instantly. He accused me of abandoning him, of changing, of choosing money over family. Clara warned me not to make things difficult, her voice cool and controlled. Then they walked out, slamming the door so hard a framed photo of Ethan as a child fell off the shelf and cracked on the floor. I stared at that photo for a long time. When I finally opened the folder they left behind, my hand started shaking. Inside were mortgage documents listing me as a co-signer, my name, my signature. I had never signed them. That betrayal didn't feel loud. It felt cold, calculated, planned. They hadn't hoped I would agree. They assumed I would. The next morning, Clara posted online. She wrote about parents who forget family when money is involved. Ethan commented that I was selfish and cruel. Strangers piled on, friends stayed silent, neighbors whispered. Decades of quiet respect unraveled in a single afternoon. I felt humiliated, angry, and ashamed, even though I had done nothing wrong. I stopped checking my phone, but the damage was already done. That's when my neighbor Martha knocked on my door. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She told me she'd seen the posts and knew something didn't add up. She'd heard rumors about Ethan's finances, about debts, about Clara exaggerating her career and lifestyle. She offered to help, and for the first time in my life, I didn't refuse. Through Martha, I met Victor, a retired financial investigator. He moved slowly and carefully, like a man who understood patience better than urgency. It didn't take him long to uncover the truth. Ethan had been running shell companies, borrowing money under fake business names, shuffling debt to hide it. Clara's professional references were fabricated. Her career existed mostly online. Their entire lifestyle was built on deception, and I was expected to fund it. I didn't confront them. I didn't defend myself publicly. I waited. Then the lawsuit arrived, $600,000. They claimed I had verbally agreed to pay their mortgage and backed out, leaving them financially devastated. That lawsuit wasn't confidence. It was panic. I met with Julia, a lawyer Martha recommended. I brought everything. Old letters from Ethan begging for money, messages promising repayment, emails acknowledging debt. She read quietly, then smiled, and said their case wouldn't survive scrutiny. Court day arrived faster than I expected. Ethan and Clara walked in confident, dressed for victory, certain they would win. Until the evidence was presented, Victor's financial records exposed the fraud. Julia presented the letters. The judge asked question after question, each one stripping away their story layer by layer. There was no verbal agreement. There was manipulation. The judge dismissed the case. Outside the courthouse, Ethan tried to apologize. Clara asked if we could move on. I told them the truth. They didn't just lose a lawsuit. They lost my trust, and trust doesn't return just because someone is embarrassed. That night, I sat on Martha's porch, the air cold and still, the city distant and quiet. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Peace. I learned that love doesn't mean endless sacrifice. Boundaries don't make you cruel. And standing up for yourself doesn't make you a bad parent. If this story resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Click the next story on screen to keep listening. Thank you for watching.